Good afternoon students and welcome to today's science class. So in the previous topic we have already discussed about a most important organ of the circulatory system, that is the heart. So today we are here to discuss about the circulation of the nutrients and the oxygen and the removal of the waste products from the human body, the process called as the circulation. Okay, so today we will be dealing how the process of supplying of nutrients and oxygen to the cell takes place, and also how the removal of the waste material and the carbon dioxide from the cells takes place. So we have already studied that the heart is actually a muscular organ, and this heart, it keeps on beating rhythmically. It contracts and relax. It means it keeps on beating from the day we are born till the day we die. Okay, so our heart is actually divided into two parts. One is the left side of the heart and second is the right side of the heart. So the left side and the right side of the heart is separated with the help of a partition, and this partition, it is called as the septum. Now the partition of the heart into left and right hand side is very important. Why? Because it prevents the blood which is rich in oxygen from mixing with the blood rich in carbon dioxide, which means it prevents the mixing of oxygenated blood as well as the deoxygenated blood. Okay, now what is meant by oxygenated and what is meant by deoxygenated blood? Actually, the blood which is rich in oxygen and low in carbon dioxide is called as oxygenated blood, while the blood which is rich in carbon dioxide and low in oxygen is known as deoxygenated blood. Okay, so this partition, it helps to avoid mixing of oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood. Why mixing should not be there? We actually know that we human beings are warm-blooded animals, which means we need energy to maintain our constant body temperature, and for this process a large amount of energy is required. If the oxygenated blood and deoxygenated blood gets mixed up, then the amount of energy produced will be less. Since we are the warm-blooded animals, we need large amount of energy to maintain our body temperature. That's why our heart, it is divided into two chambers and actually two parts, and then it prevents the mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Okay. Now our heart, the circulation in the heart is carried out with the help of very important blood vessels. Now what are blood vessels? Now the blood vessels are actually vessels which are carrying the blood to the cells, carrying the oxygen and the nutrients, and bringing back the blood rich in carbon dioxide, the waste materials, away. Okay, so there are generally three types of blood vessels. The first is the arteries. Now what do you mean by arteries? Arteries, these are actually thick-walled vessels. Why these are thick-walled? Because the arteries, they are receiving blood directly from the heart, which means the blood which is coming into these arteries are under very high pressure. So that's why these arteries are very thick-walled. And these arteries, what is the function of these arteries? The arteries, they are carrying the blood from the heart to different parts of the body except the lungs. So we have two different types of arteries. First is the main artery, which is called as the aorta, and it is carrying the oxygenated blood which it is receiving from the left ventricle, and then it is entering into the main artery and it is supplying to the body organs. And the next is the pulmonary artery, which is receiving the blood from the right ventricle and it is supplying to the lungs. Okay. Second is the capillaries. The capillaries are actually thin-walled and they are present in between the arteries and the veins. Okay, so they are joining the arteries and the veins. The arteries, they are situated in very close proximity with the cells. Why these are situated in close proximity with the cells? Because so that the exchange of oxygen, food, nutrients and the waste materials can take place between the blood and the cells. Okay. Now the next is the veins. The veins are also thin-walled. Why these are thin-walled? Because these are not receiving the blood directly from the heart. That's why the arteries are thin-walled. And the veins are thin-walled. And these veins, we are also having two main veins. Two veins. What are the two veins? The main vein, which is called as the vena cava, and it is carrying the deoxygenated blood. Now the oxygen, since the oxygen has been used by the body organs, the blood has become deoxygenated. So it is carrying the deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. Okay. Next is the pulmonary vein. Now this pulmonary vein, it is receiving the oxygenated blood from the lungs and it is supplying to the left atrium. Okay. So this were three main blood vessels. First is the arteries, second is the capillaries, and third is the veins. Okay. Actually the heart is a double pump. What do you mean? The heart is a double pump. See, the left side of the heart, it is supplying the blood to the body organs. Okay, except the lungs. But the right side of the heart, it is supplying the blood to the lungs. Okay, so now we will be dealing how the process of actual transportation of the nutrients takes place, how this blood pumps the blood, how this heart pumps the blood to different body organs, and each and every cell of the human body is supplied with the nutrients, oxygen, and how the waste material is carried out. Okay, now let's start. So we know that our heart is divided into four chambers. First is the left atrium, left ventricle, right atrium, and the right ventricle. Okay, so when all these four chambers are in a state of rest, okay, what happens? The blood, which is rich in oxygen, it is coming from the lungs, and the pulmonary vein, it is carrying this blood to the right atrium. Okay, now what happens as soon as the blood enters into the left atrium, the atrium, it contracts. Okay, now when the atrium contracts, what happens? It is squeezing the blood into the left ventricle. Now here, from the left atrium, the blood has entered in the left ventricle. Now here valve is present. Okay, now what happens? As soon as this blood from the left atrium enters in the left ventricle, this valve V1 closes. Okay, why this valve closes? So that the blood do not go back into the left atrium. Okay, now one more valve is present over here, which is called as the V3 valve. Now what happens when the contraction of the left ventricle takes place? Okay, now when the left ventricle takes place, the blood, which is under high pressure, it enters into the atrium through the valve V3. Okay, now this V3 valve, it also regulates the backflow of blood. Okay, it prevents the backflow of blood. Now what happens? Now this blood from the left ventricle, it has entered into the main artery, which is called as the aorta, and it is an oxygenated blood, which means it is a blood which is rich in oxygen. Now this blood, with the help of aorta, it further branches into arterioles. Okay, arterioles and then the capillaries. Okay, so these capillaries and these arterioles, they are supplying the blood to the body organs. Now these body organs, they were having carbon dioxide and they were having waste products, so they needed oxygen. Now this oxygen and the minerals and the nutrients which are present in the blood are taken up by the body organs, the cells of the body organs, and whatever the waste material was there, carbon dioxide as well as other excretory products, it was dumped into the blood. Now this blood has become rich in carbon dioxide and the waste materials, and the oxygen is low now. So this blood is now deoxygenated blood. Okay, now this deoxygenated blood is with the help of this vein. This main vein is called as the vena cava. Now this main vein, it carries the deoxygenated blood to the right atrium. Okay, now right atrium. Now what happens? As soon as the blood is reached into the right atrium, the heart contracts again. Okay, now what is the contract? Okay, contracting again. So what happens? Due to the contraction from the right atrium, the blood is entering into the right ventricle. Now what happens into the right ventricle? This V2 valve closes. Okay, now due to the closing of the V2 valve, this blood cannot go back into the right atrium. So from right ventricle, the blood enters into the pulmonary artery, which is carrying the deoxygenated blood. Okay, which is carrying the deoxygenated blood to the lungs. Now here also a valve V4 is present, which prevents the backflow. Okay, now this right ventricle, it supplies the blood to the pulmonary artery, and from the pulmonary artery it supplies the blood to the lungs. Now after coming to the lungs, we know the lungs contains oxygen. Now this deoxygenated blood against oxygenated again, and this process goes on again and again. Okay, so this whole process of circulation is called as the double circulation. Why is the process of circulation in human beings called as the double circulation process? Because the blood is entering the heart twice in one complete cycle. First is here, it is entering into the heart, and from again after entering the lungs, it is entering to the heart again in one complete cycle. Since the blood is entering 2 times in the heart in one complete cycle, it is called as double circulation. Okay, now this double circulation is divided into 2 parts. First is the pulmonary and second is the systemic circulation. Now what do you mean by the pulmonary circulation? See, the circulation of blood from the heart to the lungs and then back to the heart, which means this one, from the heart to the lungs and back to the heart, is called as the pulmonary circulation. While second one, the movement or the circulation of the blood from the heart to the body organs and back to the heart is known as systemic circulation. So a single circulation consists of double circulation, which is one pulmonary circulation, and second is the systemic circulation. So this was the process of double circulation in human beings, and it is the most important process, and it helps the human beings to survive, or all the mammals to survive, because these are the animals which maintain a constant body temperature and require a high amount of energy. I hope you understand how the process of circulation is taking place. Thank you for watching. Keep watching. Thank you. Have a nice day. Stay home. Stay safe.